Close your eyes for a moment and feel the weight of your body right where you are sitting. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath, the quiet pulse in your chest, the soft hum of being alive in this exact second. Now let me ask you something that might unravel everything you thought you knew about reality. What if time, this invisible river you believe is carrying you from past to future, does not actually flow at all? What if the clock on your wall, the calendar on your phone, the years you count, and the memories you hold are all part of a grand architecture built entirely by your mind? What if the only thing that is real, the only place where life truly happens, is this breath you are taking right now? Tonight, we are stepping into one of the most extraordinary intersections in human understanding, where the ancient stillness of Buddhist wisdom meets the mind-bending revelations of quantum physics. This is not a lecture. This is a sanctuary. And if these words begin to quiet something restless inside you, if they offer even a moment of stillness in your rushing world, I invite you to join our path by subscribing to this sanctuary, so we can continue healing your body and soul through these ancient teachings together. Let us begin. The first insight is this: you have never actually experienced the past. Sit with that for a moment. You might resist it. You might say, of course I have experienced the past. I remember it. I carry it. It shaped who I am. But consider this carefully. Every single memory you have of the past is being recalled right now. The image of your childhood home, the sound of your mother's voice, the pain of a heartbreak from years ago. None of these are happening in the past. They are happening as electrical and chemical patterns firing in your brain in this present moment. The past, as you know it, is a mental reconstruction. It is a story your mind assembles from fragments, and each time you remember something, you subtly alter it. Neuroscience has shown this clearly. Every act of remembering is also an act of reimagining. The Buddha understood this over 2,500 years ago without a single brain scanner. In the Bhattacharya Sutta, he said, "Do not pursue the past. Do not lose yourself in the future. The past no longer is. The future has not yet come." He was not being poetic. He was describing the architecture of reality itself. When you sit quietly and watch your own mind, you begin to notice something extraordinary. The past exists only as thought arising now. The future exists only as thought arising now. There is no door you can walk through to reach yesterday. There is no bridge that leads to tomorrow. There is only this. And this is not a small realization. This is the doorway to freedom. The second insight takes us into the laboratories of modern physics, where something astonishing happened in the early 20th century. When Albert Einstein published his theory of relativity, he shattered the common sense notion that time flows at a constant rate for everyone. He showed mathematically that time is not a fixed background against which events unfold. Time bends. Time stretches. Time moves differently depending on how fast you are traveling or how close you are to a massive object. An astronaut orbiting the Earth at tremendous speed ages slightly less than someone standing still on the ground. This is not a theory. It has been measured with atomic clocks on satellites and jet planes. Einstein himself, in a letter to the family of his lifelong friend Michel Besso after Besso's death, wrote something haunting. He said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." He was not speaking casually. He meant it as a statement about the fundamental nature of the universe. In what physicists call the block universe model, all moments in time, past, present, and future, exist simultaneously. Imagine a loaf of bread. Each slice is a moment. From inside any one slice, it feels like the present. But from outside the loaf, every slice is equally real. Nothing is gone. Nothing is yet to come. It is all simply there. Now pause and feel your breath again. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the air entering your nostrils, cool and alive. This is where physics begins to whisper something that monks in mountain monasteries have been saying for millennia. The third insight is the Buddhist teaching of impermanence, anicca, and how it reveals the nature of time from the inside out. The Buddha did not need equations. He sat beneath a tree and watched. He watched sensations arise in his body and dissolve. He watched thoughts bloom and wither. He watched emotions swell and fade. And in that watching, he saw the deepest truth of existence. Nothing that arises remains. Everything is in constant motion. But here's the subtlety that most people miss. If everything is constantly changing, then no fixed moment of past can truly exist, because the conditions that created it have already dissolved. And no fixed moment of future can exist either, because the conditions that will create it have not yet assembled. What remains is only the arising itself, only the present process of becoming, only this breath, this sound, this flicker of awareness. In the Khandha Samyutta, the Buddha compared our experience to a magician's trick. What we call a self moving through time is really just a rapid succession of momentary events, each one giving rise to the next, like frames in a film strip that create the illusion of a continuous moving image. There is no one walking through time. There is only the walking. The fourth insight brings us to one of the most mysterious experiments in the history of science, the quantum double slit experiment. In this experiment, scientists fired tiny particles, photons or electrons, at a barrier with two slits. When no one observed which slit the particle passed through, it behaved as a wave, passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern on the screen behind. But the moment a detector was placed to observe which slit the particle went through, the interference pattern vanished. The particle behaved as if it had chosen one path, as if the act of observation itself had collapsed its possibilities into a single reality. This result has baffled physicists for nearly a century. It suggests that at the most fundamental level, reality is not fixed until it is observed. The present moment is not simply a passive stage on which events play out. It is an active participant. Observation itself seems to call reality into being. Now listen to what the Buddha taught about consciousness and reality. In the doctrine of dependent origination, he explained that consciousness and the world of form arise together, mutually dependent. There is no world without a mind to know it. There is no mind without a world to know. The Zen master Dogen wrote, "To study the self is to forget the self, and to forget the self is to be enlightened by all things." When the physicist watches the particle, reality changes. When the meditator watches the mind, the self dissolves. In both cases, the act of awareness is not separate from what is being observed. It is the very fabric of the experience. Take a slow breath now. Feel the expansion in your chest. Feel the brief pause at the top of the inhale. Feel the release. That pause, that tiny gap between breaths, is a glimpse of what we are really talking about, a moment outside the story of time. The fifth insight concerns the neuroscience of time perception and why your brain is lying to you. Researchers have discovered that the brain does not passively record time like a clock. It actively constructs the experience of time. Studies have shown that during moments of fear, time seems to slow down. During moments of deep focus or joy, hours can vanish in what feels like minutes. David Eagleman, a neuroscientist who has studied time perception extensively, has demonstrated that the brain processes events and then stitches them together into a coherent narrative, sometimes rearranging the actual order of events to create a smoother story. In other words, your sense of past, present, and future is a post-production edit performed by your own nervous system. Buddhist meditation reveals this directly. When a practitioner enters deep states of concentration, what the Buddha called jhana, the ordinary sense of time passing can dissolve completely. Minutes and hours become meaningless. There is only awareness, luminous and undivided. The Tibetan master Milarepa described this state as resting in the nature of mind, where there is no coming and no going, no before and no after. Just the vast, open clarity of awareness itself. This is not an escape from reality. This is reality before the mind layers its story of time on top. The sixth insight asks a deeply personal question. If the past is only a thought and the future is only a thought, then why do you suffer so much over things that are not here? Notice how much of your daily anguish comes from replaying events that have already dissolved. The argument you had last week, the mistake you made years ago, the person who left. Notice how much of your anxiety comes from rehearsing events that have not yet occurred. The meeting tomorrow, the diagnosis you fear, the loss you imagine. The Buddha called this papanka, the mind's tendency to proliferate, to spin a single thought into an entire world of suffering. You stub your toe and the sensation lasts a few seconds, but the mind can turn it into a story that lasts for hours. Why does this always happen to me? I am so clumsy. Nothing ever goes right. That is not pain. That is the mind traveling through imaginary time, dragging you with it. In the Zen tradition, there is a famous story of two monks who encounter a woman at a river crossing. The older monk carries her across. Hours later, the younger monk says, "How could you touch that woman? We are monks." The older monk replies, "I set her down at the river." You are still carrying her. The river was the present. The younger monk was living in the past. His suffering was entirely constructed by time travel of the mind. The seventh insight is perhaps the most liberating. Every spiritual tradition that has touched the deepest truth has arrived at the same doorway. The eternal now. The Christian mystic Meister Eckhart wrote that the soul that would know God must forget time and place. The Sufi poet Rumi said, "Past and future veil God from our sight. Burn both of them with fire." In Zen Buddhism, this is expressed with breathtaking simplicity. A student asks the master, "What is the most important moment?" The master answers, "Now." And the student asks, "What is the most important thing to do?" The master answers, "To pay attention." This is not naivety. This is the most sophisticated understanding of reality available to a human being. When you are fully present, suffering cannot find a foothold. Not because pain disappears, but because the mental architecture that amplifies pain, the time-traveling mind, falls silent. Feel your hands right now. Feel the warmth in your palms. Feel the slight tingling at your fingertips. That sensation is real. It is here. It requires no past and no future to exist. The eighth insight bridges the quantum and the contemplative in a way that should stop you in your tracks. In 2022, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to Alain Aspect, John Clauser, and Anton Zeilinger for their experiments proving quantum entanglement, the phenomenon where two particles, separated by any distance, remain instantaneously connected. What makes this so profound is that this connection appears to operate outside of time as we know it. The correlation between entangled particles does not travel through space at the speed of light. It simply is. As if space and time are not fundamental barriers, but secondary features of a deeper reality. The physicist John Wheeler proposed that the universe is participatory, that observers are not passive witnesses, but active participants in bringing reality into existence. He called this the it from bit hypothesis, suggesting that information and observation are more fundamental than matter and time. Now compare this with the Buddhist teaching of sunyata, emptiness. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are empty of independent existence. Nothing exists on its own. Everything arises in relationship, in mutual dependence. If particles are entangled beyond space and time, and if all phenomena arise only in relationship, then the universe is not a collection of separate objects moving through a timeline. It is a single, interconnected, timeless web of arising. And you are not separate from it. You are it, aware of itself, right now. The ninth and final insight is both the simplest and the most difficult. You do not need to understand time intellectually to be free from its tyranny. You only need to arrive fully in this moment. The great Thai forest master Ajahn Chah used to hold up a glass and say, "To me, this glass is already broken. I enjoy it. I drink from it. It holds water for me. But I know its future. It will fall. It will shatter. Because I already see this, I can enjoy it completely without clinging to it. This is what it means to live in the present moment. Not to deny that change happens, but to stop fighting it. Not to pretend the glass will never break, but to love it precisely because it will. When you stop running from the future and stop clinging to the past, something extraordinary happens. The weight you have been carrying, the weight of regret, of worry, of anticipation, it simply sets itself down. And what remains is not emptiness. What remains is fullness. The fullness of this breath, the fullness of this sound, the fullness of being alive in the only moment that has ever existed. The quantum physicist and the Zen master arrive at the same shore by different paths. One through equations and experiments, the other through silence and stillness. But both point to the same truth. Time, as you have known it, is a construction of the mind. And the present moment is not a thin sliver between past and future. It is the ground of all being. It is the only place where love happens, where beauty is perceived, where freedom is found. So tonight, as these words settle into your body like stones sinking into still water, I offer you a simple invitation. Stop. Breathe. Arrive. Not tomorrow. Not after you fix your life. Not after you understand everything. Now. Because now is not a moment in time. Now is the end of time and the beginning of everything real. Rest here. You have always been here. You just forgot. And now, gently, you are beginning to remember.